Yeah, we back with another interesting video. Now today's video is going to be a follow-up video to one I dropped last night entitled, take a look up on the screen. Black woman says political beliefs shouldn't be a deal breaker when finding a husband. Now let's get into it. In that video, a young lady came into my comment section by the name of Tiana Brown. You know, she seems like she's cool people. And she said this: I've seen a number of your videos where you said that the man has the final word in the household. It may be like that in Haiti, but not in Black America. Even though I have read that Haiti has a matriarchal culture like we do, the dynamics of how that plays out over here is different. And I replied to her and I said this: she's not in Black America though. Her husband is white. She's a part of white America now. She is under the leadership of a white man. Now, if you saw my video last night, the original video was a reaction to a clip from TikTok where a lady was encouraging young women to expand their dating options to men outside their race or their political affiliation. In my opinion, she was encouraging younger Black women to expand their dating options to be open to the possibility of dating and marrying perhaps a conservative white man. And in that video, I gave my opinion on why that's a foolish piece of advice. Now, in the video, she never explicitly said conservative white man, but the lady herself is married to a conservative white man. And when people say conservative, in my opinion, that's code word for white man, because even conservative Black men don't openly claim the title of conservative. Regardless of our political beliefs, we don't really call ourselves conservative Republicans. You know what I mean? So in a roundabout way, she was encouraging women to compromise their own personal beliefs in order to find a husband. And in that video, I explained why that's not a suitable strategy for the majority of women, because most high-powered men, as they call it, that these women will be open to dating, these men tend to place their culture and their ancestry on a pedestal. For example, I got a Jewish buddy. He packed his shit up and moved to a different city with a high population of Jewish people in order to put himself in a better position of finding a Jewish woman. Because not only was it important for him, but it was also important for his mother, who told him that she wouldn't accept nobody else but a Jewish woman. Now, Black people, we tend to be very open and accepting people, so we don't really hold a hard line like other groups of people. But yeah, other groups of people, they tend to hold a hard line when it comes to things like the culture and things like that. I also explained why it's foolish for a woman to marry a man who doesn't share her beliefs and worldview, because the father has a massive influence on the upbringing of the child due to his position as a leader and patriarch of the family. And I'm going to address that in this video. I'm going to address that comment where she said something about matriarchal cultures and things like that. We're going to get into that. But in the video last night, I should have added that Black women cannot take that matriarchal mentality into these other cultures and think that there won't be, constantly be clashes and disagreements. Other groups of men such as Europeans, white Americans, Arabs, Indians, Asians, etc., they're not as egalitarian as Black men are. These other foreign cultures are highly patriarchal, and the man is inside the driver's seat 100% of the time. I see a lot of women encouraging other Black women to date outside the race, yet no one mentions this side of the game. Since the beginning of time, Black men have always been more egalitarian than other groups of men. A matriarchal culture or society would only be possible in a Black country, in a Black community. It wouldn't be possible anywhere else. Black women were already in positions of leadership in their own native societies when other groups of women were still under total domination and subjugation. So me personally, I don't understand what Black women are expecting to find when migrating to these foreign cultures and dealing with these other groups of men. Your children will be raised under the leadership of that man, and his culture and his values will be absorbed in the generations down the line. That's why people tend to marry within their own group, because these issues never come up due to the shared culture and ideology of both individuals. Men, especially powerful men, they tend to marry women within their own ethnic group and women who share their same beliefs, because it's easier to transmit those values to the children when everyone is already on the same page. When both people are coming from a similar environment or similar culture with a similar background, there aren't any quote-unquote cultural conversations or discussions to be had. You don't got to sit down and explain certain aspects of your culture, because what's already understood doesn't have to be explained. For example, if a father wants to pass on his religious or political beliefs to his children, it's more likely that his wife, who shares those same beliefs, will reinforce them in the home, whether he is alive or dead. This can also provide consistency in the child's upbringing, as they are exposed to the same values and beliefs both at home and in their community. Now, going back to the video last night, due to the fact that the woman in question is a Black woman married to a white man, we have documented historical evidence in regards to how that scenario has played out throughout history. I think due to the fact that a lot of Black women see the world through the lens of a woman, and many of them have been raised primarily by a woman in a single parent home, a lot of Black women tend to overrate the influence of the mother in the household while also minimizing the influence of the father. Now, me personally, I see the world through the lens of a man who was raised under a two-parent home where the father's word was respected and his ideology was upheld and passed down to the children, because he married a woman who shared his exact same ideology. And that's the most important. Marrying a woman who is on code with your program. Also, in my experience, women tend to adapt to the beliefs of the man they're dating. In my own anecdotal experience, I feel like my energy has rubbed off on every woman I've ever been with. And I feel like this also adds credibility to my theory that men have a large amount of influence on the upbringing of the children simply due to the amount of influence we have on the women we're sleeping with. If the man is the leader and the woman is following, naturally, the children are going to follow as well. Going back to what I said about how I see the world through the lens of a man. Sons often admire and follow in the footsteps of their fathers because they are influenced by their father's beliefs. When it comes to the children, especially the boys, the fathers are often seen as role models for their sons, and they pass down their values and traditions through their behavior, communication, and shared experience. Cultural and ideological beliefs are often deeply ingrained in a family's identity and passed down from generation to generation. Sons may feel a sense of obligation or loyalty to continue the family's cultural or ideological legacy. This can also be reinforced through socialization within the family, where fathers may actively teach and reinforce the values and beliefs to their sons, which is something my father did for me starting at a young age. I'm the only son, and my father placed a massive emphasis on the fact that I'm the only son. He never let me forget that. Being the only son can be a challenging position for any young boy to be in. There can be a lot of pressure placed on his shoulders to live up to his father's expectations, carry on a legacy, continue the success. The weight of this pressure can be heavy if the father has achieved a high level of success in the field that the son is expected to follow in, such as business, politics, etc., etc. The expectations placed on the son to succeed can be both internal and external. Sons may feel a sense of obligation to continue the father's legacy and also make him proud. Sons may also feel pressured from their family, friends, and society at large to be equally as successful or even more successful than the father. On one hand, this pressure could drive the son to work hard and strive for excellence, but on the other hand, it can cause stress, anxiety, and a fear of failure. In addition, sons may see their fathers as a source of guidance and support in navigating the complexities of the world around them. Fathers can provide advice and wisdom based on their own life experiences, and sons may look to them for direction on how to live their lives and make important decisions. This can also create a sense of trust and respect between fathers and sons, as sons value their father's opinions and perspectives. Now, the subject of last night's video was a black woman married to a white man. And the same exact thing still applies even in the case of biracial sons. Biracial sons still follow in the footsteps of their fathers 9 times out of 10, regardless of the racial background. For example, even going back to the colonial era, many mixed-race sons of European fathers and indigenous or enslaved women followed in their father's footsteps and served in European armies as generals. These biracial sons were often socialized within European culture and ideas, which was reinforced by their father's presence in their lives. They were often raised in European households and received an education that emphasized European values and beliefs above everything else. Even in the modern day, the education we receive and the media we consume is European in nature. So how can a black woman pass down her culture to her children in a multiracial family in a society where European worldview is a dominant narrative? That's why when you see other groups, other immigrant groups, I'm not talking about the black ones, we're talking about, even the Asians and the Indians, whatever. They tend to marry within each other to maintain their culture because, listen, it's easy. Within one generation, the culture could be lost if you don't try to maintain that, bro. Having a strong culture inside the household is essential because it provides a foundation for the family to navigate the outside world and the greater society. But it's difficult to accomplish this when the mother and father don't even share the same beliefs, which goes back to what I said in the previous video about how it's stupid advice for the lady to encourage black women to marry people who they disagree with politically and ideologically. What the fuck? But anyways, one famous example of a mixed race man who followed in his father's footsteps is General Alexander Dumas, whose father was a French nobleman and whose mother was an African slave. Dumas grew up in a household that valued education, European culture, and military service, which his father instilled in him. Dumas went on to become a celebrated general in the French army. Similarly, in the British colonial era, mixed race sons of British fathers often followed in their father's footsteps and joined the British army or civil service. These biracial sons were often raised in British households and received an education that emphasized British values and beliefs. They were also influenced by their father's position of authority and status in colonial society, which could create a sense of duty and loyalty to the British Empire. 9 times out of 10 throughout history, it was the full-blooded black man that you seen going against the European power structure. And many times, the full-blooded black man had to fight against the mixed-race sons of the European who was fighting on behalf of his father's people. That's why it's imperative to study history, so we don't get sucked into these false narratives that sound good but are not rooted in reality, such as this propaganda that we see on social media all the time, where black women are encouraged to date white men as if white men haven't had unlimited access to the bodies of black women for the past 5 centuries. But anyways, man, entering a marriage with a man who does not share your beliefs or worldview or shared experiences is foolish, especially when it comes to passing down values to the children. When partners have different beliefs, they tend to clash on important issues that can affect the child's upbringing and development. For example, if a woman has strong political or religious beliefs and her husband disagrees with them, it can create tension and conflicts inside the home. When it comes to passing down values to the children, it is essential for both partners to be on the same page. If a woman's beliefs or values are not shared by the husband, it can be difficult for her to pass them down to the children. In some cases, the husband may actively resist his wife's attempts to pass down her beliefs to the children. Taking myself, for example, I definitely wouldn't allow a woman to raise my children in a way that I don't agree with, but that's why I stay in my lane and I only deal with women who share my similar beliefs, women who have the same passion as me, women who have the same spirit as me. Another reason why I said in previous videos, I only deal with black women, but I don't deal with black women who be dating white men, but that's a topic for another day. Let's continue. Anyways, one thing the ladies got to understand, man, when a woman marries a man, she also marries into his family and his community. This means that you will be exposed to your husband's beliefs, his values, his worldviews, as well as those of his family and the community. In many cultures, the father is seen as the head of the family and the leader in the community. Therefore, his thoughts and opinions will have a significant influence on the children's upbringing and development. And that's why, like I said in the previous video, that's why powerful men tend to stay in their lanes. They only deal with women who share their same beliefs and experiences, and those women also tend to be a part of their ethnic group. Men don't tend to sacrifice or compromise when it comes to this area because most men with integrity are willing to die for their beliefs, and that's a fact. Now, going back to what she said in the comment section, she mentioned something about matriarchal and patriarchal cultures. In America, patriarchy tends to carry negative connotations, right? A positive patriarchal culture involves a system of strong and supportive male leadership in families and communities, while a negative patriarchal culture involves oppression and subjugation. For women in America sitting under these modern Western curriculums and digesting Western media, many of them are only accustomed to envision the second example. They don't attach any positive attributes to patriarchal societies. Patriarchy is seen as bad and matriarchy is seen as good, but they claim they want men to protect and provide and sacrifice their lives, which are key elements to patriarchal societies. So obviously women are just picking and choosing what they like at the end of the day, man. Now, with that being said, black men in America, regardless if you're, foundational black American like Tarina she'd say, or if you're just, a black immigrant, child of immigrants, whatever, black men in America face significant challenges in establishing a positive patriarchal culture in this country due to the lack of control that we have over the institutions, like the judicial system, the media, the education, among many others. This lack of control means that black men have less power and influence in our society, making it difficult to establish and maintain strong leadership in our communities. This also affects black men from other nations who migrate to America because the children easily get sucked into the dominant culture of America within a single generation. Another major issue is how black men are portrayed in the media. Negative stereotypes of black men such as the thug, the deadbeat dad, etc., etc. This does not help when it comes to our collective image. These images are distributed worldwide by US media, and these stereotypes are often absorbed and redistributed by black women themselves. When you look at Arab countries, for example, since y'all want to date outside the race so goddamn much, when you look at Arab countries, the men often hold significant power and influence in society due to their control over institutions like the laws, the media, the education, the culture. This means they have greater control over the environment and culture in which their children, especially their daughters, are raised in. And their daughters are going to become women who are going to be the wives of the future generations. Similarly, when you look at European countries and the United States, white men hold significant power and influence in society, particularly in regards to the laws, the media, the education, the culture. This allows them to shape the cultural environment in which their children are raised and to maintain control over the dominant narratives. Women, like all individuals, they're influenced by the culture and the environment in which they are raised. They may adopt certain beliefs and behaviors that are consistent with the dominant culture in their community. In patriarchal cultures like the Arabs and the white communities and things like that, the women, they adopt the beliefs and the behaviors that are consistent with the expectations of the men. Unfortunately, in America, the lack of control that black men have over the dominant narratives and representation of our image in society, this makes it difficult to establish a role of influence in the community. This can also contribute to negative stereotypes of black men and make it difficult for us to establish positive relationships with black women who have internalized these stereotypes. Now, like I said in previous videos, morality does not exist, democracy does not exist, life is a competition. Men are battling for power, so obviously we shouldn't be surprised that white men are going to undermine our influence. Why would they allow a rival group of men to gain power and prominence in their society? Obviously that doesn't make any sense. Of course they're going to undermine us at every single turn. But like I said before, life is a competition. Life is like sports. They're going to try to undermine us, but we got to defend ourselves. Anyways, let's continue. Any intelligent regime would never allow a rival group of men to gain any position of power. That doesn't make any sense, bro. Men are more inclined to rebel and declare open war, whereas women are more inclined to adapt to the current environment. Historically, women have had to navigate the existing power structures in order to gain influence and agency. This has often required them to adapt and assimilate to the norms and values of those in power in order to have their voices heard and their needs met. Women have also been socialized to be peacemakers and mediators, and they tend to prioritize collaboration and compromise over open conflict. And in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. That's their feminine nature. But when it comes to men, on the other hand, men are more likely to engage in open conflict in order to maintain or gain power. Men are often socialized to be competitive and assertive, and in many cases, men may view conflict, rebellion, and sacrificing their own lives as legitimate means of achieving their goals. Therefore, the matriarchal society that she's talking about in this comment, in my opinion, is a product of the European power structure because it poses no threat to the people in power. Think about it. When you look across the world, we see patriarchies battling against patriarchies. And if the black man is operating inside a matriarchy, then now we understand why black men are currently sitting at the bottom of the economic and geopolitical hierarchy. In summary, man, black men need to assume the position of leaders, and black women need to make themselves suitable to partner up with those men and raise children that will grow up to be productive members of society. In my opinion, yes, I do still believe that fathers have the supreme influence over the household and the children. But at the same time, men tend to gravitate to women who already share their same beliefs anyway. Therefore, the women will transmit those values and beliefs down to the children, whether the man is alive or dead, because she also subscribes to those same beliefs. In general, I don't think people should get married to their opposites. It's much easier to attach yourself to what you already know, what you're already familiar with, what you're already accustomed to. But anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari Desaline back in the building. Yes, indeed. Like, share, subscribe, Cash App in the description. And I'm gone. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left on a horse and came back in that ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching me blocking my vision. Pay for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need to protect it. Ready for war like a young money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage, I got business. This shit is an art and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you ain't caught. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so elite. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with brands cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and you're smacking their faces.